The weather is getting warmer, which means that it's that time of the year when people wear less and less clothes in public. This gradual undressing is a tendency for both men and women. However, Christian people, we should know better. Often immature Christians will advocate for low plunging necklines, they'll advocate for mini skirts and for tight form-fitting clothes. Sometimes they claim their individual soul liberty in an attempt at some kind of biblical validation for their increased nakedness. They want people to think that they're still right with God, even if they're out in public flaunting everything that God gave them. And certainly I understand that the Bible does teach individual soul liberty. However, we must remember that individual soul liberty is never a validation to sin. Galatians 5 specifically says, "Use not your liberty for an occasion to the flesh." But then the other extreme some people advocate for is to cover oneself so comprehensively that it reminds people of a Little House on the Prairie character. Or in order to not be immodest, some Christians advocate for something close to an Islamic burqa or a hijab. So then the question is, what's the biblical balance in all of this? Well, that is a great question, and I'm glad you asked. We must remember that 1 Timothy 2:9 instructs women to adorn themselves in modest apparel. And then Proverbs 7:10 warns ladies against wearing the attire of an harlot. But what is modest apparel? And what is specifically the attire of an harlot? And an antagonist might ask, well, how low is too low for the neckline? Or how short is too short for the shorts or the skirts? In order to avoid wearing things that are too revealing, the key is to take time to honestly evaluate what's going on in your heart when you're putting on your clothes. What are you thinking in those moments? Are you thinking, what can I wear in order to get eyes on me? If so, a much better question would be, what can I wear that would best express a humble and modest heart? Or what can I wear that will let others know that I am dedicated to pleasing God? It's been rightly said that Christians should not dress in a way that distracts others from God, but instead attracts attention to God. As I mentioned, 1 Timothy 2 instructs the reader to adorn themselves in modest apparel, but then it's in verse number 10 where it describes clothes that profess godliness. I'm saying that as Christians, we can draw attention to God by dressing in a way that represents well our gender. Godly men should dress in a way that's unquestionably masculine, and godly women should adorn themselves in a way that exalts their femininity. Immodest clothing for both men and women is when aspects of our gender that should remain covered are displayed for everyone to see. When men and women dress distinctly and modestly, it is then that God is honored. When men and women show off their bodies, the gift of masculinity and femininity is then distorted so that it obscures the giver. This wicked world needs to see men and women who dress like they belong to God. The world needs the example of Christians who have the character to not just go with the convenient flow of immodest fashion trends, but instead, Christians should let the Spirit of God flow through them. With all that explained, I believe that the commentator was right when he said that skin-tight clothes and low necklines and short dresses and short skirts and short shorts, they all fall short of the biblical expectation for modesty. If you're saved, God's presence exists within you. Therefore, it should also be evident on the outside of you. So, as this weather gets warmer and warmer, make sure that you represent our Creator well. Represent Him in a way that gets Him more attention, and beware of seeking attention for yourself.